to the fourth session. Right? Yesterday I talked about interfaces and I told you what are the various drivers, and I told you that WebDriver is the interface and all the other drivers, they implement the interface, because of which the functions are same in all the drivers. Okay, so you really don't have to worry that if you have to click on a link using Firefox and if you have to click a link using Chrome, right, what would be the command? The command would be same. Okay, the command would be same. Fine. Now just a minute, give me 1 minute. Alright, so let's start with a new Java project called Day-4. Selenium, and hold on, alright. So now today I will talk about how to handle various kinds of elements using Selenium. Alright. Okay. Now our major focus is to learn Selenium first, and then after that go and build a framework. Okay. I am not teaching you how to write test cases as of now. I am not teaching you how to build your reports. Fine. Those things also we'll learn, but first the primary motive is to learn the various tips and tricks in Selenium. Okay. So today I will be starting with how to manage links and how to manage various web components. Okay. Now for that, what I will do is I will make an Excel file. I'll make an Excel file and right, I'll name it as web components. Hold on. Alright. So now in this sheet I will be making a various columns called as name, tag name, mandatory attributes. Just hold on, I will get to know what these are, and optional attributes. Right. Now Selenium is a tool which only tests web-based applications. Okay, this tool is only meant for web-based applications. It is not meant for desktop-based applications. Right. The reason being that if suppose I go to a site, hold on. Suppose I go to a site like bbc.com. Okay, and once the site opens, right, once the site opens, you right click and you go to the page source. Now Selenium will always work on page source, right? In page source there are various tags. These are known as tags, the ones which are starting with conical brackets. Okay, each tag represents a web component, right? Just a minute. So each tag out here is representing a web component. Fine. Now Selenium goes to the page source and identifies the elements based on tags, based on other attributes as well. Fine. Now what do you mean by an attribute? For example, if you observe this particular line, Then on this line DL, okay, this is known as tag name, and class technically is known as an attribute. Okay, and similarly over here DD is the tag name, class is an attribute. Out here A, that is anchor, this represents a link. Okay, if the tag name is A, that means it's a link, right? This is an anchor tag. REV is an attribute, href is an attribute, title is an attribute, right? Similarly img means an image, right? Source is an attribute. So every tag has a tag name and attribute associated with it. The attributes can be one or they can be more than one. Selenium can be used to identify an object, right, using the tag name and the attribute. Okay, so how do you do that? For example, let's categorize. What are the various types of web components present out there, right? You have got links, right? You have got input fields, right? You have got radio buttons, right? You have got then checkboxes, then you have got normal buttons, right? You have got drop lists, right? You have got normal text on the page, which is visible text which you read, right? Now apart from this, there are other components as well which are not visible to the eye. Those are known as frames, web tables are also present, right? Apart from this, images are also present on the web, on the pages, right? So these are the general components, okay, which are present on a web page. Okay, fine. Now every component will have a tag name. Alright. Now in Selenium you will have to read the HTML code a lot. You will have to go through the page source a lot. Fine. What I recommend people is that just get their HTML, and even if you know, it doesn't matter, just go to this site and study HTML. Go to this site and like just type HTML tutorial. It will help you a lot. 10 minutes given to this tutorial will save many number of hours in coming time. Fine. So just go here and study the HTML tutorial. Study only this much till lists. Okay, this is a very good website, you will come to know. Okay, so just study this, you will actually learn a lot. Fine. Now in order to investigate a page, right, suppose I want to investigate the Google page, right, I can go into the page source and investigate it, or I can install a plugin. Fine, I can install a plugin in Mozilla known as Firebug. Okay, you can write over here Firebug download, and you can get this link and go here. Not here. Yeah, you can go to addons.mozilla.org and just you can click on add to Firefox. It will be installed as add-on. Make sure you open this link in a Firefox. Okay, so this icon on the top, this one, this will be visible once Firefox restarts. Right, this is known as Firebug. If you click on Firebug, you will get a window like this. Right, so there will be an HTML tab out here. Okay, if you click on, there will be an arrow out here, this arrow sign. Fine, if you click on this and move your mouse over the page, you will get the HTML code corresponding to the component. For example, I move my mouse over this 1451. Okay, this is a span with this attribute, right? Eventually it's a link because it's under a link tag, anchor tag. Anchor tag is a link tag. Fine. So if you have links, the tag name will always be A. Fine. Always remember, in case of links, the tag name is always A. Mandatory attribute is href. Okay, every tag has set of mandatory and optional attributes. Okay, the href attribute in link will always be present. It will point towards the URL which opens when you click on the link. For example, if I look at this link, say Firebug working group, right? Then this is the anchor tag and this is the href. Href points towards the URL. Okay, fine, right? There are optional attributes. I'll talk about them in some time, right? If you talk about an input field, okay, for example, I am on gmail.com page, and if I look at the email, that is username field, right, it's got the tag name as input, and all the input fields will always have tag name as input. Rather, I'll tell you, if you look at suppose this checkbox, this is the checkbox, right? Stay signed in. If you look at the checkbox has also got the input tag name. And from my experience, I'll tell you, the radio buttons also have input tag name, and the normal buttons on a page, for example, the sign in button over here for Gmail. If you observe this, then this will also have the tag name as input. Fine. So all four of them, right? Input field, radio button, checkbox, and buttons, they have the tag name as input, right? But how do they differ? They differ in mandatory attributes. For example, if you talk about a text field, if you look at a text field, then there will be a mandatory attribute called type equals to text inside it. If you talk about a checkbox or a normal submit button, for example, this is the checkbox. Then in checkbox, you will find that type equals to checkbox is a command, is an attribute. This will always be present. This will tell that this is a checkbox. And similarly, in radio button, you have got type equals to radio. Fine. In case of a normal button, like this is a sign in button, if you look at the sign in button, then there is a attribute called as type equals to submit. Fine. So you will have type equals to submit as the mandatory attribute in case of a button. Fine. Okay. If you have a drop down, for example, on this site, there is a drop down out here having the various languages in it. If you look at the drop down using Firebug, then always remember, this is very important, the structure of a drop down. It's actually a select tag, right? The tag name is select. There is no mandatory attribute in it. Remember, there is no mandatory attribute in a select tag. But inside a select tag, there are various option tags. Each option tag represents the option which is visible to us when we use a component. Oh, sorry, when we expand the select list. And these are all the options which are there in this list. And in the end, the select tag, it closes. Right? So always remember the structure of select tag. The select tag closes in the end, and in between there are various option tags. Fine? Okay? A normal text, the text which is seen by us on the page, it can have any tag name. Sometimes it's in para tag, sometimes it's in you can say div, sometimes it's in span, right? So there is no fixed tag for the text. Okay, it can have various tags. There is no mandatory attribute again in case of text. Okay, in case of an image, for example, out here Google is an image. This is an image. If you look at it, then image will have a tag called img. Image has a tag called img, and the mandatory attribute in case of image is src, the source attribute. Src attribute in case of an image points towards the URL from which this image is loading. For example, in our case, this Google image is loading from this URL. If I copy this URL and paste it out here, you will see the Google image coming in. The Google image is coming from this particular location, and that location you can check out from the page source, right? So these are the various tags named. These are the various components, right? Their tag names. I'm sorry, and the mandatory attributes associated with them. Fine. Now there are some optional attributes as well associated with these. For example, an optional attribute like ID can be present, name can be present, right? Then class can be present. So these are some of, not all, but some of the optional attributes which can be present with any of the web components. Okay, generally ID and name are unique for a component. The class can be same for many components. For example, ID or name is given by the developer. Okay, they can uniquely identify the element on the page. For example, if you look at the username field out here, then the username field has got both name as well as ID attributes, right? And both of them have a unique value, that is ID is email, name is also email. So generally, if the developer is smart enough, if the developer is good, he will always give unique IDs or unique names to the objects, and this makes us identify them in a very good way, in a very easy way, right? If he hasn't given them, then again we can identify, that's not a big deal. Okay, and class. Class is another attribute which can be same for different objects as well. Generally, the objects having same look and feel have the same class. We will talk about this attribute. Right now, you will not be able to understand this attribute. As I carry on with the course, okay, you will be able to understand. Fine. So that is about the HTML page and the various elements present inside it. Fine, but how do I use Selenium to identify them? Right? How do I use Selenium to identify them? Suppose there's a simple thing that I need to go to Gmail and I need to enter the username and enter the password and click on sign in button. Right? So out here, suppose in my Eclipse, I will create a new class called as Gmail, and in this class I will write WebDriver driver equals to new I did not include the Selenium jar files. Okay. Hold on, I'll just include the Selenium jar.
Ashish,
Yeah.
do we need to add for every project, or can we do globally that is applicable for all projects?
No, you have to add it for every project. It's better you add it for every project. Okay. Yeah. So you write WebDriver driver equals to new Firefox driver, and then write driver dot get, give the URL including the protocol, that is http gmail.com. Now I need to write something in this username field. Okay, and we just studied that an input field will have a TestNg input, it will have a type text, and these are some optional attributes associated with input field. Okay, now how do I tell Selenium how to do this? Well, for Selenium, okay, everything on a page is a web element. Don't, if you know QTP, don't confuse this with QTP web element. Okay, forget QTP, it's completely different out here. Okay, for Selenium, this text is also a web element. Technically, this button is also a web element. This text field is also a web element for Selenium, right? An image is a web element. So all these components technically, whatever I have jotted down on the Excel file, these are web elements for Selenium. Fine. And in the documentation of Selenium, that is, if you go to Google, and if you type download Selenium, so if you look at this, right, so out here you will see the Java doc. Okay, you go to the Java doc and you will see that there are various classes, fine, and out here there is a web element interface. Okay, if you look at this interface web element, it's got various functions which you can perform with the web element. For example, clear, click, find element, get location, get size, get tag name, get text, is displayed, is enabled. Fine. So submit, send keys is used to type into an element. Fine. So these are the various operations which you can perform with the element on a page. Those all operations are jotted down in this interface web element. And in the WebDriver, right, in WebDriver you have a function called as find element. This find element, okay, returns with the object of web element. For example, I write over here driver dot find element. Okay, this function will return you the reference of a web element interface like this. Web element username equals to, you import the web element interface driver dot find element. Now by what? By which criteria? Okay. Now by is a class. Again, if you click on it, you will see that by is a class in which everything is static. You don't need to create the object of this class to use the components of this class. So all you need to do is that you need to write by dot. You will get all the types of you can say ways in which you can identify the element in Selenium. For example, by the class name, CSS selector ID, link text name, partial link text, tag name, XPATH. Okay, so I will talk about all of these. Fine. Now first of all, let's start with a very simple thing, that is by the ID. In your Gmail, the input field has got an ID called as email. So you write over here by the ID email. The ID, it uniquely identifies the username. Fine. Similarly, you can find the web element password. Web element password is equal to driver dot find element by the ID if you look at the password field, this is the password field. Okay, by the ID password, this is the password, this is the ID. Okay, so you put the password here, and then in the end you write web element button. The submit button is equal to driver dot find element by the ID or by the name. You can use any attribute. Sign in button has got both ID and name associated with it. Okay, you can use the ID, that is ID is sign in, or you can also use the name. The name is also sign in. You can use anything. Okay, because by has got both. Let's use name in this case. Okay, I'll identify the button on the basis of its name. Name is sign in. So you have the username, password and the button with you. Okay, now you can write username dot send keys, say hello. Send keys function in web element interface, it is used to type in something. Okay, if you look at the web element interface, then these are all the methods which you can perform with the web element, which you can call with the web element. One of the functions is send keys. Use this method to simulate typing into an element which may set its value. Okay, so send keys is used to type in something, and similarly you can write password dot send keys some password. Okay, then button dot click. Right, if you run this code, run as Java application, and hold on, It's quite slow. Okay. It is running, okay, in Eclipse. If you have this red button coming up, that is in the console, right? This is the terminate button. That means the program is running. Okay. I'm not sure why this browser is not opening. I will terminate this by clicking on this red icon. It is not terminating as well. It has terminated, right? And I will run again. I will run this gmail.java. I will run it again. Earlier it was opening up Gmail in a very fine way. Maybe some port has been blocked. Hold on, let me close everything. Okay, let's wait for 2 minutes. Let's wait for 2 minutes. I think it's gone slow. Sometimes it really goes very slow, particularly on my system. Just hold on for 2 minutes.
Aziz, I have a question.
Open now. Okay. Yeah, tell me.
Why do we need to put web element in front of the username?
Hold on.
The three lines that with web element.
You mean to say, what do you mean by a web element?
The three code lines.
Okay, I'll tell you. See, it entered the username password and it submitted the form. You mean this one?
Yeah, right.
What is the web element?
Yeah, why do we need to put a web element username because we have driver that something?
I can't get you. Can you repeat yourself? Alvin, can you repeat yourself, please? I
Yeah.
can't get you.
Yeah, can you explain the three lines of code?
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Okay.
Thank you.
If you look at the documentation of Selenium, again I'll go into the documentation. If you go to Google and if you type download Selenium, and if you look at the Java docs, then out here you will see web element interface. Okay, it's an interface, right? In WebDriver, when you write, everything is a web element. Okay, on a page, everything is categorized as a web element. When you fire the function find element, it returns you back the reference of web element interface. Okay, so when you write driver dot find element, okay, and you give the criteria on which you need to find the element on the page, Selenium, it goes on the page, it finds the element. Now for Selenium, everything is a web element. Okay, so it returns back the web element object to you, object reference to you, and on that web element you can fire all the functions which are defined inside the web element interface. That means the functions which are there for web elements on the pages. That is, you can clear the web element, you can click on it, you can do anything with it. Okay, is the web element displayed or is it hidden, is it enabled? Fine. So this function out here, driver.findElement, returns you the web element interface. You got it, Alvin?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Now there are other criteria as well to identify objects. If I am writing by dot, one of them is XPath. Okay. Now what is XPath? You can say XPath is like an address of an element. Fine. For example, every house has a house number. Fine. Similarly, every component on the web page will have a particular XPath which will identify it uniquely. So XPath is like an address. Okay. To use XPaths, fine, you need to install an add-on in Firebug known as Firepath. If you install Firebug, you will never see the Firepath add-on coming up inside it. Okay, you will never see Firepath coming inside Firebug. This will not be there in the beginning. Okay, so you need to install Firebug in your Eclipse and go separately and install Firepath. So you have to write over here, download Firepath. Go here, Firepath add-ons for Firefox, and install this as an add-on in Firefox. You will get this thing. Okay, you will get this thing. Right now, when I move my mouse over any element, I get this kind of stuff in Firepath. This is known as an XPath. It starts with the base of the document, that is HTML tag. This is the HTML tag. Then it tells you under the HTML tag there is a body tag. This is the body tag. Under it you go inside the first division. So this is the first division. Then inside the third division. Inside the third division means hold on. This is the third division, right? So on and so forth. You keep on navigating on the page from the HTML tag to the last tag, that is anchor tag, which is out here. Okay, and you find the location. So this is what XPath is. It starts with the it's basically made up of tag names, this kind of XPath. Okay, it starts with the root of the document and it goes to the tag name, right, which represents the element which you want. Fine, but this type of XPath is not good. This type of XPath is known as absolute XPath. Okay, if you look at this in Notepad, this is known as absolute XPath. Okay, this XPath is not good because it starts from the HTML base of the document. Suppose tomorrow the page changes and something is added in between the HTML tag and the anchor tag, which affects the XPath, right? So my XPath will go for a toss. I'll have to again make it. XPath obviously can be used to identify the objects, so the object would also be not recognized in case the XPath changes. Okay, so this is just a very small absolute XPath. Sometimes you get very big absolute XPath. So we discourage people from using absolute XPath, although absolute XPaths are very accurate, right? They can be used to define the element or find the element exactly on the page starting from the HTML tag. Fine, but the here danger is that if suppose some other thing adds, suppose tomorrow if one more division adds up in between, then not even one, all the XPaths of my application, almost all the XPaths of this page will change. So this is a kind of drawback. So what we do is that we don't use absolute XPaths, we use partial XPaths. In your FirePath, if you uncheck the option generate absolute XPath, this option you will be getting when you click on this arrow. You uncheck this, and then suppose I look at this button, add to Firefox. Now in this case, it's got this particular XPath. That is, I'll copy this. /* ID equals to add-on. Star means, if you look at this, yeah, it is referring this division tag. There is a division tag whose ID, so it actually finds the element with the ID and it parses down the element till the anchor tag. Okay, it means that basically star is a kind of regular expression. You can remove it with the tag name. You can call it, there's a div with ID add-on, and inside it there's another div, then another div, till the time you reach the anchor tag. Right. Let's look at this example on the Gmail page. For example, on Gmail, if I look at the email field and in FirePath, if I generate my absolute XPath, then for the email field, this is the absolute XPath. Okay, this is the absolute XPath. But if you look at the partial XPath in the email field, then this is the partial XPath. Okay, // star basically means a tag name. The tag name for email field is input. So you can replace it with input and you can write an input field with the ID email. So you can use both these XPaths. The better one is this one, which is the partial one, because it is more accurate, and even if tomorrow the location of this field changes, it will not matter, and even if a tag is added or even if a component is added in the XPath, this XPath will not be affected, this one. Fine. So instead of writing like this, driver.find element by username, by ID basically, you can also identify the elements on the basis of their XPaths. You can write over here driver.find element username field by the XPath. You can give the XPath of the email ID. Right, just a minute. You can give password for the button as well. You can give the XPath of all three things: username, password, and the button. Right. The username XPath we just saw is this thing. This is the XPath for username. For password, you can again use FirePath and get the XPath. This is the XPath. Star out here, it represents the tag name. Okay. So you can take this XPath. Okay, you can keep star as it is. It really doesn't matter. Selenium will identify. Only thing is, star means any tag with the ID password. But if I write input over here, it makes it specific that there is a tag name called input whose ID is password. So it's completely up to you whether you want to replace star with tag name or not. Fine. Similarly, this is the sign in button. So you can write over here / ID equals to sign in. So if you run this, this will again work. Okay, guys, I'm taking a little 10 minutes shorter class today. I need to leave for some work. That's why I'm just taking a little short class today. But hold on, let it run first. I don't know why it's taking time. I need to restart my system, I guess. Anybody having any questions?
Ashish, quick question. How do we pay the fee and continue the class?
Just a minute. Okay, after the class I'll ping you and I'll tell you. Just ping me on Skype. You are added on my Skype? If you are in US, then I can give you the payment link. If you are in India, then I'll give you the bank account details. Okay. So Ushami is asking, was this Venkat asking the question?
Yeah, Venkat. I also sent you mail, Ashish. You can reply to that.
Okay, fine. All right. Are you added on my Skype, Venkat? You are added. Okay, fine. I'll ping you in some time. Yeah. Before that, Ushami's question. My project in Office is Flash, where I'm trying to use it and there's no response. Flash, you cannot test like this. Okay. Flash is entirely different. You have to have a lot of skills to test Flash. IDE, don't use IDE with Flash. Okay, don't use IDE. WebDriver also directly cannot be used. For testing Flash-based applications, you need to know the code of that particular application. You cannot just go and test any Flash-based application out there. Okay, you need to have the code of that application. I think the Gmail code got executed in front of us that the browser was minimized, right? Anyways, so